Here, the story is called How the Davises Celebrated New Year's 2000. Roger wanted to start the new year on the water in a boat. So he invited Tim and Cynthia to invite the entire Davis family to go on the Blakesleys' boat. The Blakesleys happily extended the offer, but their preferred sailing time was noon to 3 p.m. on the 31st of December 1999. Roger declined, preferring to celebrate the arrival of the new year at the more traditional midnight hour. Inexplicably, at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, another boat offer came, this one from Morgan's family, who were reputed to have lived on a boat for 9 months 2 years ago. Not knowing whether we could trust their boatsmanship on such skimpy testimony, we consulted the I Ching. The omen was generally unfavorable, especially this particular sentence. It would be unwise to cross the great river, as we should inevitably tumble into the watery abyss. So it was that Roger, Sarah, Charlotte, and Amy Valdez found themselves hopping into the van at 10:30, heading for the waterfront. We were incredulous when we arrived in downtown Portsmouth and found available parking spaces in the last block before the river. Wait, they've moved the ferry dock to over behind the Jewish Mother, Sarah said. We walked over there and we still found a parking spot right behind the most likely party spot in town. Even as we shut off the engine, we saw fireworks in the sky across the harbor. Sarah quickly found a cop. The cop to civilian ratio was about 1-to-1. And in desperate tones, she asked him, "Are they still having fireworks at midnight?" Roger asked Sarah, "Do you feel better now, hearing from an official that they're going to have New Year's, New Century, new Y2K Millennium fireworks display actually at midnight?" Sarah says, "Let me make a resolution to kick your ass." As we waited for the ferry, we spied Herbie, an old high school friend. Luckily, he saw us too and came over to chat. "I'm glad to see you got out of jail for the new year," I told him. "Yes," he said, "I haven't had any for 9 months." When the ferry arrived, Herbie told us, "I'll be right back," and ran to get his bicycle. Sarah, I apologize for saying I want to stay home for New Year's. It is nice to get out and see people. When we debarked in Norfolk, the girls realized the mistake they had made in not using the bathroom before we left home. This was the very first time that situation has arisen, so it did not bother me to wait indoors in a tacky beer and hot dog restaurant, burning up under my own ton of outdoor clothing, watching patiently while the girls waited in line for the ladies' room. It was fun trying to figure out the rate of movement of the line and guess in which century they would finally emerge. The line moved so quickly that I had to surmise there must have actually been 2 toilets and perhaps no makeup tables. Within nearly a half hour to spare, we were again on our way outside. Our contingency plan was laissez-faire, which is French for the kids run to God knows where and the parents try to keep up. Reminiscent of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, the girls made a beeline for the stage. Once they settled into a more or less fixed position, closest possible proximity, Sarah and I inched our way closer to the bonfire. Before long, we heard a thumping sound behind us. "Is that more music?" I asked. Maybe just an echo, Sarah thought. I walked toward the new sound and soon saw a couple of fellows kneeling on the ground inside a small fenced-in area, thumping on some kunga drums. The band on stage was playing music that was specifically chosen to offend no one, so it was no problem to convince Sarah, Shar, and Amy that two vagrants slapping skins had far more potential entertainment value, and we headed over to the Gorilla Drummers. I was reminded of a sleep-in at Virginia Tech many years ago, in which an endless row of drummers and wine bottle clankers kept a rhythm going all night around a bonfire. I looked around for some empty wine bottles, but at 15 minutes before the new year arrives, the bottles were still being eagerly clutched. I did see a boy of about 16 years old standing outside the fence holding his drum. I saw a computer-printed sign on the gate that said Drum Rally, and I saw a boy of about 4 years old take his place with the kunga drummers and commence clinking a cowbell. Charlotte and Amy did get a smile out of the drummer boy outside the fence, but the only commitment they could elicit from him was maybe later. Well, I was desperate to play, and I spied some wooden-looking things on the ground beside the boss drummer. It was kind of like a wooden box and a wooden stick, and it had some ridges on it. I went to him and I said, "Can I play these?" I've searched the web in vain for a picture of the instrument, but in text I found evidence that the proper name might be dual-tubed fluted boomwhacker tubes. One of the tubes came unglued, the guy told me. I pressed it into place, struck up a rhythm, and everyone else fell right in behind me, jamming. Borrowing from Bob Dylan, I kept my back to the audience. It should be judged more as humility than bashfulness, because the rhythm I was playing was excellent. Lo and behold, out of the corner of my eye, I see that drummer boy has joined us. Yeah. Well, we played that one jam for about 5 minutes, and then a lady came and whispered to the boss kunga guy, and then he turns out and said, "Okay, we're gonna play as we move to the stage, then we're gonna play with the band." "We're gonna walk to the stage?" asked the drummer boy. "Not walk," I told him. "We're gonna march." And so we did. We clanked and tinked and thumped our way to the stage, and we joined the band to the hair-trigger applause of thousands of drunken citizens. They instructed that we were to blend in with the band. What? We are percussion. They are supposed to follow us. Well, I'd always heard that showbiz had its downside. We played our hearts out, and I would periodically strike the unglued tube on its end rather than its side, which worked fairly well, as it fell out only twice during the entire number. My bending over and picking up the tube blended so well into my jive that I'm sure nobody suspected it wasn't even part of the act. With only 5 minutes remaining before the new year, Norfolk Mayor Paul Frame arrived on stage. It came back to me that when I asked the I Ching, how will it go for us if we go to Town Point Park instead of boating, the oracle had said, "You will visit a great man." I was in absolute rapture. Surely this was going to be a splendid millennium for me, with such a propitious start, catapulted to fame, rubbing elbows with the great and the near great. And then I hear that we're going to do another number to drum in the new year. Well, I realized that what I wanted more than anything was to be my wife and the kids as the new millennium arrived. "I have to quit the band," I said to the boss guy. "But you don't have your check yet," he said. "Mail it to me," I grinned, and I was gone. Desperately, I scanned the area around the stage. My family was nowhere to be seen. The only chance I had was to look where I had left them, at the fenced-in area where the drum rally had been. There they were, with the friends they had gathered up during my absence. "Did you see me?" I went on stage and played the stick thing and stood right beside the mayor. They had not seen me. And with a disappointed admonition to watch the news, I watch the news, you'll see me, I rushed off to pay $20 for a $10 bottle of champagne. We toasted the arrival of nearly every category of era. As firework ashes fell on us, we felt like brothers and sisters to everyone in the park. There was absolutely no such thing as a stranger, and optimism was at an all-time high. We headed for the boardwalk when Charlotte and Amy stood behind the news lady and made rabbit ears and stuff. And Herbie reappeared to our great pleasure. He offered me a beer, but I declined. I don't think $3 beer mixes well with $20 champagne, I said. This isn't $3 beer, Raj, Herbie said. I brought a 6-pack of my own. Where'd you get the styrofoam cup? Out of the trash can? Well, that's where I got mine, he said, but you can drink straight out of the can, which I did. And as the heavy fog set in, someone asked Herbie for a light. And he says, my lighter doesn't work anymore. It has a Y2K bug. How we laughed. Confident the new year would bring nothing but perfect joy.